My name is Nancy Fegley. I'm 27, and I learned two things at my sister's wedding. One, sparkling water still burns if you swallow it with humiliation. And two, sometimes freedom arrives wearing a cocktail dress and a bad smile. The country club outside Indianapolis was the kind of place that smells like polished wood and certainty. Kelsey looked like a magazine page that had never been folded. Three open bars, a greenhouse shaped photo booth, monograms on linen napkins that were too soft to be real. If you listened closely, you could hear money exhale. I sat at the family table, my mother's porcelain stare, my father's measurable affection, a few in laws who said they remembered me as a child, which always feels like a polite way to say you were smaller and quieter. We've never been the airport hug kind of family. We believe in transactions, in ledgers you can hold. When I needed a loan for my last semester, after grants, after 30 hours a week at a campus job, after the quiet part of me that kept insisting I could do it alone, Dad didn't hesitate. He printed a contract, 10% interest, 1-year term, failure to repay clause. Not a gift, a deal. He watched me initial every page like he was notarizing my disappointment. Meanwhile, Kelsey flunked her freshman year, rolled home rent-free, totaled her car, and got a shinier one before the week ended. No contracts, just we all make mistakes and a cake that said, "Welcome home, bright girl." That's the dynamic. File under. Things everyone knows, nobody says. I hadn't told them yet that I was leaving Indiana. Not just leaving, erasing. I had a folder on my laptop labeled event stuff in case anyone snooped. Inside, job postings, a spreadsheet of faraway cities, a budget titled Oxygen. I hadn't even told Lucas. We've been good for a year, the kind of good that feels like remembering a password you created on a day you were kind to yourself. He was working a rotation 2 states over that weekend, texting me photos of undercooked chicken at his motel and asking if I'd eaten. His ex, Naomi, still drifts around the edges. Civil, sugar bright, the kind of person who remembers anniversaries that aren't hers. I've always told myself she's background noise. I try to believe it. Dinner was almost over when Dad stood with his glass and tapped a fork against the rim. The room hushed, like someone pulled a blanket over it. He started sweet. They always do. Love is hard work. Proud of the bride. A home built on trust. He glanced at Kelsey and her new husband. Summer as a verb, family money ironed into their cufflinks, and then he let the real speech out. Some kids make you proud, he said. Others just take up space. It landed like a casual joke, a sitcom zinger. Laughter in little clumps. Even Kelsey giggled, the way people laugh when they want to prove they're on the safe side of the line. My mother didn't blink. She never wastes the good china of her expressions. I felt something click into place. Not anger, not yet. More like a door in an empty hallway finally choosing a hinge. I lifted my own glass, held his eyes the way you hold a heavy box you're done carrying, and said, clear enough to cut the tablecloth, "Good thing I just got my own place 2,000 miles away. Don't worry, you'll never see me waste space again." Silence is the most honest sound. You could hear it moving. A waiter coughed. The bandleader pretended to retune a guitar that didn't need it. For a second, I saw something shake in Dad's face, like the mask didn't fit as well as he remembered. Then nothing. They let me stand. They let me leave. I walked out with my heels in my hand because dignity is easier barefoot. The night air didn't smell like money. It smelled like grass and whatever you call, the moment before a storm decides to happen. Back at the hotel, the adrenaline burned off and left a bright, careful calm. No crying, no dramatic mirror pep talk, just the quiet arithmetic of a person done negotiating with a locked door. I opened the banking app Dad had demanded I download when I borrowed the tuition money and sent the final payment, $3,362.18. Memo. As agreed. He tracks every cent. So do I. No reply. Of course not. In our house, silence isn't absence, it's leverage. Kelsey posted a frosting-smeared selfie to the family group chat the next morning. Best night ever. Red hearts. Champagne emoji. Mom replied with sparkles about perfect beginnings. It was almost impressive, the choreography of erasure. They treated my line like a dropped napkin. Step over it and keep dancing. My phone buzzed with Lucas. How's the fancy wedding? Eat real food. I sent him a plate photo and a lie. It was fine. He texted a crooked selfie with bedhead and a caption, "I'm proud of you even on boring days." I wanted to tell him everything, the toast, the transfer, the way my chest felt like a window finally opened, but the words held back, waiting for a safer room. I told myself I'd call later. I told myself a lot of things. 2 days later, Mom tried the concerned voice, the one that puts gauze over the knife. "Is everything okay, Nancy? Did something happen at the wedding?" I told her work was busy. I gave her nothing to grip. Then came the generational alibi. "He didn't mean it like it sounded. He's old school about affection. We've always supported you in our way." Support. In our family, that word shows up with a receipt stapled to it. I hung up and opened event stuff. Portland, Boulder, Flagstaff, Asheville. At least 1,000 miles between me and whatever this is. I made columns. Cost of living, job market, weather, how far grief travels when it has to buy a plane ticket. I started selling things under a fake name. Books, a blender that only ever made apology smoothies. Every passive-aggressive comment from Mom. $50 into the escape fund. Every jab from Dad, eyes on his phone. $100. I turned leaving into math, and the numbers liked me back. On the surface, I did all the normal daughter things. I answered texts. I showed up. I laughed at a story that never quite happened. But I wasn't there. I was already packing a suitcase in my head and labeling it with a word I hadn't used on myself in years. Mine. 6 weeks after the wedding, Kelsey left a voicemail that sounded like someone trying not to wake a sleeping baby. Small, careful sobs. "Can we talk?" We hadn't, not really, since the toast. She'd commented a heart under a photo of my dog. That was it. I listened twice. I waited a day before calling back. Not to punish her, just to prove to myself that I could. She picked up fast. Her voice was paper thin. "We've been fighting. He disappears. He says maybe we rushed. Maybe it was family pressure." I didn't tell her what my face wanted to say. "You married a resume and a tux." It would have been too easy. "Can you help me pack?" she asked. I asked her to repeat it. She wanted to move out, back home to our parents. "Just for a bit," she said. "I can't afford the place alone." She hadn't told Mom and Dad yet. "I don't want to hear the speeches," she whispered. "I can't be perfect and wrong at the same time." That stopped me. Golden children aren't supposed to know the weight of gold. I should have said no. Boundaries are cleaner on paper. But there was a tremor in her voice I recognized from a younger me, holding a loan contract and pretending it was help. "I'll come," I said. Her apartment looked half erased, wedding photos still sealed in their envelope, cabinets that never learned the shape of her dishes. We packed in silence. When she folded a dress with the tag still on, she said, not looking at me, "You were right to get out." I didn't answer. Sometimes you don't touch a fragile thing with words. We finished fast. She hugged me, like a person who finally learned how. I left before our parents arrived, because I didn't want to see them practice sympathy like a second language. On the drive home, I added $500 to the escape fund and renamed the spreadsheet Oxygen, Not Permission. That week, I got an interview request from a creative agency in Portland. High-paying, fully remote, the kind of chance people say is out of your league until you win it. The morning of the interview, Mom called 4 times before I finished my coffee. My stomach did its old ferryboat sway. I turned the phone off. The interview felt like a room with windows. They'd read my work. They asked where I saw myself in 5 years. "Owning my days," I said, not asking for permission to breathe. When we ended, I sat still and didn't apologize for taking up space in my own chair. I turned my phone back on to 7 missed calls and a text from Kelsey. "Don't come home," I called. She whispered fast. "Mom found your spreadsheet. She told Dad you're plotting to humiliate them. They're waiting for you. Doors closed. Please don't go." The line went quiet except for her breath, and then mine. That night, I pulled a suitcase from the closet and set it open on the floor. I didn't pack much. The good jeans, 3 shirts that make me look like I didn't forget myself, boots that add an inch to my courage. I left the case open like a promise. I wasn't going to argue anymore. I wasn't going to win loud. I was going to leave so clean that even their silence couldn't stain it. The week after the interview, everything in my life became strangely weightless. Emails looked like exit signs. Every sound in that house, Mom's coffee stirrer, Dad's stock alerts, felt like a countdown. I kept the suitcase half open in my bedroom closet. tucked under a pile of folded sweaters, just in case they came snooping. 5 weeks, that's all I needed. 5 weeks until I'd vanish. Every day had its secret ritual. Morning coffee while scanning new job postings, pretending to scroll social media. Afternoon walks where I rehearsed answers to questions no one would ever ask, like what it feels like to outgrow your family and still love them in ruins. Evenings were for selling things online, old textbooks, dresses, the slow surrender of everything I owned that had been chosen to please someone else. I transferred every sale into my hidden account. Watching the numbers grow became its own kind of prayer. My spreadsheet called it oxygen, not permission. Meanwhile, my family group chat stayed loud. Wedding photos, dinner plans, mom's inspirational quotes about forgiveness. The irony was an art form. They never mentioned the toast. The silence about it was a shared project, like they were repainting reality. Then one night, while scrolling through listings for Portland apartments, my phone buzzed. Lucas. Interview went well? Better than I expected, I said. So, Portland? I hesitated. We hadn't really talked about what it meant. He was practical, grounded, the kind of man who measured twice, and still double-checked the ruler. He'd moved 2 states over for work months ago, and we were both pretending distance was romantic, not lonely. It's just one offer, I said. Nothing official yet. You've been planning this for a while, haven't you? That stopped me. The guilt of secrecy. It doesn't shout. It hums. I wanted to tell him everything. The escape fund. The years of being the family's scapegoat. The quiet spreadsheet of survival. Instead, I said the safe thing. I just need a change. He sighed softly. Nancy, you don't owe them explanations, but you also don't have to carry the entire family's history on your back. His words were kind, but they ached. I wasn't sure he understood that leaving wasn't rebellion, it was self-defense. After we hung up, a message popped up from a number I didn't recognize. Naomi, hey, hope this isn't weird. Lucas mentioned you had a big interview. Congrats. Portland suits you. I stared at it. She wasn't supposed to know. He must have mentioned it in passing, but the tone of her text, it sounded like someone standing too close to your window. I typed and deleted 5 replies before choosing silence. Some people deserve the echo more than an answer. The next morning, Kelsey called. She'd moved back in with Mom and Dad. Temporarily, she said. The word temporarily sounded like someone whistling in a graveyard. They're acting like everything's fine, she whispered. Mom keeps making casseroles like it's therapy. Dad asked if I learned my lesson. I don't even know what lesson he means. Control, I said quietly. That's the only lesson they ever teach. She laughed weakly. You make it sound so simple. It is simple, just not easy. We talked for an hour, something we hadn't done in years. She confessed that her husband hadn't reached out, that she wasn't sure if she wanted him to. I didn't offer advice. I just listened. For the first time, she let the silence breathe between us. Before hanging up, she said something soft. I used to think you left because you hated us. No, I said. I left because I was disappearing. That night, I wrote those words in my journal, because someday I'd need to remember why boundaries don't make you cruel. 3 days later, I got an email from the creative agency. Subject, final interview confirmation. It was happening. My pulse fluttered like static. I'd made it this far without anyone noticing. Then Mom knocked on my door. Her voice was syrup sweet. Dinner's ready, honey. Your sister made lasagna. I almost laughed. Kelsey had never cooked a full meal in her life. Downstairs, everything looked too normal. The table set for 4, the air conditioner humming, Mom pouring wine like a host in a commercial, Dad scrolling through his phone, Kelsey smiling nervously. I took my seat and waited for the script to drop. Dad finally spoke, eyes still on the screen. I heard from your cousin Mia. She said you're applying out west. My fork froze. Oh, I said, keeping my voice level. He looked up, that smug parental calm that pretends to be curiosity. Big move, risky. You think you're ready for that? Mom added softly, we're just worried you're running from something. I smiled, tight, polite, lethal. Maybe I'm running toward something. Kelsey shot me a quick warning glance, like she wanted to protect me, but didn't dare say it. After dinner, I found her in the kitchen, loading the dishwasher too fast. Did you tell them? I asked. No, I swear. Then who did? She hesitated. Naomi's mom goes to church with Mom. Maybe she overheard something? Of course. Gossip, the family's favorite language. That night, I checked my email again, half expecting the offer to vanish, half hoping it wouldn't. Lucas texted, "Everything okay? You sound off." I typed, "They know." He replied, "Then don't give them power over the ending." Easier said than done. 2 days later, I woke to a message from Mom. "We're proud of you, Nancy. Just remember, family is forever. Don't make choices you can't undo." It read like a Hallmark card dipped in warning. I sat there staring at it, my coffee going cold, realizing she wasn't trying to stop me. She was trying to claim credit for letting me go. So I made a list. Close old accounts. Transfer savings. Ship boxes to Portland friend's address. Change number. Say goodbye to no one. Each task felt like peeling off a layer of borrowed skin. That evening, Kelsey texted again. "Mom's acting weird. Please be careful." By then, weird was the family baseline, but something in her tone made me pause. The morning of my final interview, the sky was colorless, the kind that makes you feel like the world is holding its breath. I sat at my desk, laptop open, hair tied back in a neat compromise between professional and terrified. Before logging in, I stared at the reflection on my screen. Same face, different pulse. I whispered to myself, "Don't shake, don't shrink. You belong here." The interview started. 3 people from the creative agency smiled from a tidy digital square. They'd read my portfolio. They asked about leadership, problem solving, creative resilience. But what stayed with me was one question. "Where do you see yourself in 5 years?" My old instinct was to shrink, to give a safe answer, one that wouldn't sound too ambitious. But something inside me refused. "In a place where I don't have to apologize for breathing," I said. They nodded, impressed. For once, the silence after my words didn't feel like judgment. It felt like space being made. When the call ended, I sat there in stillness. No one yelling from another room. No one waiting to correct me. Just quiet. Mine. That's when my phone lit up. 4 missed calls. All Mom. Then another text. "Nancy, call me. It's urgent. Don't ignore this." I ignored it. I wasn't falling for the old trick, using urgent like a leash. But when the calls kept coming, 7 in total, I finally opened my messages. "Kelsey, don't come home." My chest tightened. I called immediately. She answered in a whisper. "Mom found your spreadsheet. The list of cities. The escape plan. She told Dad you're plotting to embarrass them. That you've been planning this for months just to make them look bad." I closed my eyes. "How?" "She went through your laptop when you were downstairs, said she was just checking your battery." I pressed my palm against my forehead. That old violation burned like déjà vu. Kelsey continued, "They're furious. They want you to come home for a talk. Dad's pacing, Mom's crying. Nancy, don't. They're waiting for you. Doors closed, no one else there." That last line hit harder than it should have. My parents had always preferred private punishments to public confrontations. Easier to rewrite history without witnesses. "Thank you," I said quietly. "Be careful," she whispered. Then the line went dead. I spent the rest of the day in limbo. I couldn't work, couldn't eat. I just sat there, refreshing my inbox every few minutes, waiting for the email that would change everything. At 4:07 p.m., it came. Subject, offer, creative strategist role, Portland office. My eyes blurred before I could finish reading. A real offer, remote position, full salary, health benefits, the kind of stability my parents had always dangled like a prize for obedience. I forwarded the email to myself twice, backup insurance against bad luck, then stood up and paced the room. I wanted to call Lucas first. He'd understand. He picked up on the second ring. "So?" "I got it." He laughed, a real proud sound that softened everything. "I knew you would. I'm proud of you, Nancy. You earned this." I smiled. "Thank you." Then his voice shifted. "Your mom called me this morning." My stomach dropped. "She what?" "She said she was worried, asked if you were okay, said you were acting strange and isolating yourself. She had no right." She also mentioned Portland. I closed my eyes. "So you knew." "I wanted to hear it from you," he said carefully. "Why didn't you tell me sooner?" "Because every time I've trusted someone with a plan, they've turned it into an argument," I thought. But out loud, I said, "I needed to make sure it was real before I let anyone hold it." He was quiet for a moment, then softly, "I get that." Before I could exhale, there was a second notification, another message from Naomi. "Congrats on Portland, Nancy. That's huge. Just remember, long distance is hard. I learned that the messy way." I didn't reply. Not because I was above it, but because I finally understood that silence is stronger than engagement. By nightfall, I was in full lockdown mode. I deleted the event stuff folder, wiped browser history, and backed up everything to a USB I'd hide in my luggage. My room looked sterile, almost like a model home staged for a stranger. Every few minutes, I'd glance at the suitcase, still open, half filled, a quiet promise waiting for permission. Then came a knock on my door. 3 soft taps. Not Mom's. Kelsey. She stepped in, eyes red but steady. "They think you're still asleep," she whispered. "You shouldn't be here. I needed to see you before you go." Her voice cracked at the end. I wanted to hug her, but hugs in our family are weapons, pulled out only when they can be used later as evidence. Instead, I said, "I'll call when I'm safe." She nodded. "Lucas called earlier. He asked if you needed a place to stay. Mom overheard. She told Dad you were planning to run away with him." I let out a bitter laugh. They make everything sound like scandal instead of survival. Kelsey took a shaky breath. "They're angry because they don't own your story anymore." Her words sat between us, small and true. "I can handle anger," I said. "I just can't handle pretending it's love." She smiled sadly. "Then don't." Before she left, she reached into her pocket and handed me a folded note. "Open this after you leave." When she was gone, I tucked it into my bag without reading it. I didn't want to risk breaking whatever resolve I had left. At midnight, the house was silent except for the old clock in the hallway. I checked my phone one last time. "Mom, come home, Nancy. We can talk about this like adults." Dad, "Don't make a mistake you can't undo." Their words used to sound like authority. Now they just sounded like fear. I powered my phone off and stared at the open suitcase. Inside it was everything that mattered. 2 pairs of jeans, my laptop, the USB, and a small notebook labeled "Next Chapter." I zipped it shut, breathing through the tremor in my hands. Some goodbyes happen with fireworks. Mine was going to happen with a closed door and a rented cab at dawn. I woke up before sunrise. The house was quiet except for the old refrigerator's hum, steady, mechanical, like it didn't know the walls were about to forget me. Outside, the air carried that pre-dawn chill that makes you question every decision until the light hits. I didn't take much. Just 1 suitcase, a backpack, and the envelope from Kelsey, still folded and unopened. The rest of my room looked untouched, like I'd stepped out for coffee and never came back. Maybe that's how I wanted them to remember me. Tidy, untraceable, unresolved. I slipped out the side door, the same one I used to sneak through as a teenager, when quiet was the only kind of rebellion I could afford. The taxi idled by the curb, headlights dimmed. I looked back once, not at the house, but at the window of my old bedroom. I whispered, "That's all you get." The driver didn't ask questions. We rode in silence, the streets empty, the world half asleep. It felt symbolic, like no one would notice my exit until I was already gone. When I reached the airport, I found a corner seat by a window and finally opened Kelsey's note. "Nancy, if you're reading this, you actually did it. I'm proud of you, even if Mom says I shouldn't be. Don't come back for me. I'll find my own way out. Love, Kels." The paper trembled in my hands. It wasn't from guilt, it was recognition. The cycle was breaking, and she knew it too. I folded it carefully and slid it into my journal. I wasn't going to save the whole family, I just needed to stop drowning with them. 2 hours later, while waiting to board, Lucas called. "Hey," he said softly, "are you okay?" "I'm at the airport." "You didn't tell me you were leaving today." "It wasn't safe to wait." There was a pause. Then, "Do you want me to come to Portland?" I wanted to say yes, but the truth was I needed to prove, to myself, not anyone, that I could land somewhere without immediately building around someone else. "Not yet," I said. "Let me start this one alone." "Okay," he whispered, "but I'm here, always." That always landed like a gentle promise, not a chain. For once, love didn't sound like ownership. When we hung up, I noticed another message notification. Naomi. "He deserves honesty. Don't hurt him like you hurt them." I didn't reply. Instead, I deleted the message and blocked her number. The last thing I needed on the flight toward freedom was an unsolicited conscience from someone orbiting my past. I landed in Portland just before noon. Rain misted the tarmac like a soft apology from the sky. The air smelled different, wet cedar, roasted coffee, the possibility of new mistakes. The apartment I'd rented was small, 1 bedroom, cracked tiles, a view of a parking lot. But it was mine. The silence was different here, not sharp or judgmental, just still. That first night, I unpacked slowly. Jeans, laptop, notebook. I placed Kelsey's note inside the kitchen drawer, right under the cutlery, a reminder that leaving wasn't betrayal. Sometimes it's the only honest act of love. Then I sat down to write my resignation email to the part of me that still wanted their approval. Dear old Nancy, you did everything right. You worked hard. You stayed kind. But they still couldn't see you. It's not your fault they mistook your endurance for obedience. You're allowed to go. I hit save draft, not send. Some things don't need an audience. A week later, the agency officially announced my hiring. Remote position, flexible hours, competitive salary. I'd done it. I sent the paperwork to HR, changed my bank info, and closed my old joint family account, the one Dad insisted on for emergencies. That small digital click felt more final than any goodbye hug. Then, as if on cue, my phone buzzed again. Mom, we're having dinner this weekend. Kelsey's home. It would mean a lot if you came. Attached was a photo. The family dining table, set perfectly, an empty chair at the end. I stared at it for a long time. The irony almost made me laugh, inviting me back to the scene of every unspoken war. I typed my reply carefully. I can't, I have plans. She wrote back instantly. With who? I smiled. Myself. Then I turned the phone face down. That weekend, instead of sitting through another performance of The Perfect Family, I sat by my apartment window with a bowl of soup and a cheap candle. The city hummed outside, alive, indifferent, free. I thought about the house in Indiana, Mom's polished silverware, Dad's heavy silences, Kelsey's brave half-smile. I didn't hate them. I just refused to live inside their story anymore. And for the first time in my life, that refusal didn't feel like loss. It felt like air. It's strange how peace doesn't announce itself. It doesn't kick the door open or throw confetti in your face. It just shows up quietly one morning and sits beside your coffee, waiting to see if you'll notice. A month had passed since I left Indiana. I'd stopped flinching when my phone buzzed. I'd stopped checking the family group chat that had long ago turned into a bulletin board for selective memory. Life here in Portland was imperfect. My radiator hissed, my downstairs neighbor played guitar badly, and the rain sometimes made me homesick. But it was mine, and for once, mine was enough. Work was going well. The creative agency's team treated me like a person, not an investment. My ideas actually landed. My boss said I had a steady fire about me, steady enough to lead a new project. For someone who grew up signing contracts for love, being trusted without conditions felt unreal. But peace has a way of testing its footing. Late one night, my phone lit up again. Kelsey, they're talking about you again. I hesitated before replying. Same old script? Kind of, she wrote. Dad said you'll come around. Mom said you're being dramatic. I told them you're happier. They didn't like that. I could picture it, the familiar dinner table, my name tossed around like a ghost, refusing to rest. Don't defend me, I texted back. Just live your life. That's enough. I am, she wrote. Actually, I've been looking for jobs in Chicago. I'm done waiting for their approval. I smiled through the dark. Maybe freedom was contagious after all. A few days later, an email arrived from Lucas. Flight booked. I'm coming to see you this weekend. Unless you've changed your mind? I hadn't. When he showed up, soaked from the Portland drizzle, he carried 2 coffees and the same crooked smile that used to anchor me when everything else shook. We spent the evening walking downtown. No plans, no expectations. Just the hum of the city and the sound of our shoes on wet pavement. You seem lighter, he said. I stopped negotiating with guilt. How's that working out? Feels like learning how to breathe underwater. Awkward, but survivable. He laughed softly. You really did it, Nancy. You actually left. Not just left, I said. I stayed gone. Later that night, sitting in my small living room, he looked around and said, This place suits you. I nodded. It's the first one that does. For a while, we didn't talk. We didn't need to. His presence wasn't a rescue, it was a witness. Someone to see the version of me that my family never believed existed. Before he left, he handed me a small envelope. Naomi wanted me to give you this, he said cautiously. I raised an eyebrow. Seriously? She apologized, he said. Said she was out of line. Said she envies your courage. I didn't open it. Just dropped it into the trash. Some stories don't deserve an epilogue. Weeks passed. The rain softened. I fell into a rhythm. Work, walks, cheap takeout, therapy on Thursdays. Every now and then, I'd catch myself wondering if Mom ever went into my old room and noticed the missing suitcase, or if Dad checked the family account and realized it was closed for good. One Sunday morning, I received a voicemail. Kelsey again. Her voice was calm, not tearful this time. Hey, Nance, just wanted to say I got the job. Chicago. Mom cried, though I think it was more about losing control than missing me. Anyway, I wouldn't have done it if I hadn't watched you first. You were right. Leaving isn't cruel. It's how we stop pretending. Love you. I listened twice. The second time I didn't cry. I just smiled and whispered, I love you too. Then I opened my window. The air smelled like rain and rosemary from the neighbor's balcony. Somewhere in the distance, a train horn echoed, a sound that used to mean escape, but now just sounded like life continuing. I brewed coffee, sat by the window, and looked at the quiet street below. I realized this was the final act, not a confrontation, not revenge, not some triumphant return. Just this, the absence of fear. That's the part they'll never understand. You can't argue with a person who's no longer playing the game. You can't guilt someone who's already made peace with being misunderstood. So if they ever ask where I went, tell them this. I didn't run away. I just stepped out of their story and started writing my own.